Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
Ooh, what up? No, it is another Tuesday. This is Knockouts and 3 Counts, and it is not only fight week for Corey and I, it is also fight week for tonight's guest, the return of the boss himself, Kenny the Boss Crossman. Appreciate you coming back through. I wish I was in Vegas right now because definitely fall weather has come upon us here in Michigan.
God bless you, boys. It's good to be back. And yeah, dude, it's nice out here in Vegas. I see the hail you guys just got today. Like, what the hell is going on?
Oh, Dad, you're not kidding. It was raining. It was raining a ton on the way home from work today. It was all right because it kind of kept people out of the post office too. But you know,
That's
but with
Michigan,
you
baby.
being out there in Vegas, bro, I got to talk to you. I seen all the stuff that you were around. Talk to me about one of your big teammates, Marab, getting a dub, bro. I seen you over there at the pre-fight weigh-ins and that kind of stuff, and getting to be around that, dude. I was watching all that. I didn't lay any parlays, anything, but what'd you think of UFC 320, bro?
It was nice. I watched it over at Cody's house, actually, and press conference was surreal. It was the first time, like, I was walking because I had all access pass. I didn't know, so I was sitting up in the bleachers, and my boy Jack Gold, he was in Vegas, and Marab, his team, Vato, his boy, he hooked me up with some passes. So I gave Jack one, and he's looking for me, and I'm like, I'm up in the stands, bro. I got a really good seat. He's like, he came up and found me. He's like, bro, you know we can go down to the floor. I was like, what? So we like walked down to the floor, and like I'm looking around. There's all these people. It felt like a walkout to a fight, and I'm just visualizing like one day this will be me walking out to a fight. And we sat up front, and everybody was rooting Marab on, and basically giving crap to everybody but Marab and Politan. So it was a really good vibe. I've been training alongside Marab and watching him do his 5-rounders and getting fresh bodies in. And him and I are the only ones at the time doing champ camps. So I do my 5 rounds and rotate fresh bodies in. And, the first time was pretty hard, but it continued to get better. And I just kept watching Marab do it and asking him questions. And he'd come up to me and he'd say, good job. And I felt like I didn't do a good job. And, because I want to go out and dominate every round and every second. And, they're tough rounds. So, I mean, that's where I learned a lot about a month ago, 2 months ago. I learned a lot in the first 5-round go. But it's like, you go home, you're a little upset with yourself. You want to do better. But those are the opportunities for a lot of growth. And, now that's like, those were my favorite days looking back at camp.
That was one thing. Go ahead, Corey.
When you move your way into a top level camp like that, that's what you hope to experience. Really, when you like think back on it and why you make those type of moves, it's stuff like that. You want to feel those, like you say, moments of, well, this is where I can improve throughout this layer, and I can really gain knowledge from, like you say, being alongside somebody like Marab while doing that same type of work. It's
just getting pushed by people and seeing the mindsets going into it. Like Marab says all the time after practice, like, you might not feel the best going into a fight, but you have to do your best no matter how you feel. So just having that kind of click is like, you might feel a little scared, or you might feel a little sick. You didn't rehydrate the best or whatever it might be. Your opponent's going to have to go through the same mental challenges. And if you train your body that way, when you get to the fight, like these things might happen, but you're prepared.
One thing that I noticed headed into this fight, and kind of just based off the stuff that I've seen and talking to you outside of it, like through social media and talking, you really seem like, obviously you've been on a roll. You've won 10 out of your last 11. You've won your last three straight. Talk to me. It seems like since you've been on this roll, like there's just something different. Is that what you would attribute to your mindset change? Would you attribute that to the training you're getting? What is there, like a light bulb that kind of got turned on for you in this last little bit?
I think it's progression over time, and stacking brick on brick. Like my boy John French told me, like we got to make sure each brick is lined up perfectly before we want to go too high. We have to go back down to the foundation and widen it. So moving, to finding my team and finding the right training partners and finding Jesus Christ. Since I've been out in Vegas, the biggest praise and the most glory to the All High. He's allowed me to just be detached from outcomes and give it up to him. You know, I can do my best and push myself and stay positive, and a lot of that comes from God. And over time, yeah, the confidence grows, but it's just knowing like what's outside of fighting, who I am outside of the cage, and you know what I can do. And I just keep building more confidence on who I am, and realizing that a lot of fighters, they don't have the mind that I have and the abilities that I have, and being able to put it all together under the bright lights, that's where you really shine. And when it's a big opportunity, you got to go capitalize. And I've fallen short in the past, and I haven't, but I know why. And it's, you know, my preparation and my dedication. I've always thought that one day the discipline would just all of a sudden be there, you know, and I'd start partying, and I'd start training more. And you know, it's been years now of just living a disciplined lifestyle, and it starts coming to fruition, and you can see it more and more as, you know, you follow God and you believe in yourself and you have the right people around you, and don't just talk about it, but be about it. And so, you know, my thoughts when I wake up in the morning is, how can I go be better? How can I help my team? How can I get to my goals? You know, how can I lift up my wife and get into my Bible and read the word, and get fed by the Spirit, and know that like all of this comes to an end, and you're born with a purpose, and it's not even your purpose, but it's his purpose. So go make him proud, live for an audience of one. And like John 13:7 says, like, you might not know now, but soon you will understand. So all that kind of stuff just takes the pressure off me and allows me to go be myself every day, and give it my all. I have, you know, that's my main job, is being a fighter. But I have all the time in the world to just dive in and put all the effort behind my attitude. And, you know, I want to make these dreams a reality. So it's pretty easy for me to just show up. Now the hay's in the barn. Now I just make weight and get the popcorn ready for Saturday, because this is going to be the best fight I've ever had.
You know, something you said with that, and we've talked about this before. You and I have talked about this off the show, like being a Christian myself. It's interesting how once you find God, that it's like the way your view of life, you know, changes. Like you said, kind of like how it's no longer really about like comparing, you know, your performance to what somebody else did, or what somebody else said you should have done in the fight, or what they expected you to do. It's, I can already see, just in listening to you talk, you can see kind of like the ease that's kind of given you in terms of it seems to kind of lifted a little bit of a pressure off of you. Speaking of lifting pressure off, you know, you've had a couple times now where you've gotten phone calls for like short notice fights for the UFC. You know, you were gonna fill in on short notice on UFC Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. How does stuff like that and being able to get ready on that short of notice and things like that, and know that you're being called for those things, how does that prepare you for a fight like the one that you're about to be in on October 25th, where again you kind of called your shot, and now here we are in the middle of fight week before that fight happens?
Yeah, it's when those opportunities are in arm's reach, and you're right there and you're cutting weight, and I'm outside running, and I got to make weight in 2 days. And, you know, Iridium knows that I'm the guy that can make 55 on a drop of a dime. So, you know, you really get filled with confidence, and you know that even if the call falls, that you were ready to step up. And so inside me, I know that I did what it takes. Like, I'm in the gym every day. I don't take time off, and I'm ready for these opportunities because of my contender series and because of the times where I've fallen short. Now I know to just be ready, and that anything can happen. It's not about being the best, but outlasting. You know, sometimes you just got to be the man that's going to stay there and continue to grind. And when things don't come your way, it's like, that's where you give it to God, and you look your wife in the face and you go, hey, relax. Like, I know this hurts you a lot, but I've come to terms with, you know, who I am and what's going to happen for me. And if it's not in the right timeline and God hasn't gifted it to you, it's a curse. So you just hang in there with him. Don't move ahead of God, and, you know, be 100% in, and follow what your gut tells you, and allow that Holy Spirit to just work in your life. So it's all the past things that didn't go my way, the opportunities that I let slip through my hands. I don't want to continue to go down that same path. And, now I'm at a time where I can take a hold of the opportunities and, yeah, just go out there and have fun with it.
Hell yeah. That's what you love to hear with that stuff. Well, speaking of, like I said, I mentioned you called your shot for this fight. So what made this the apple of your eye, so to speak? What made this the next shot in the crosshairs? What made getting the Tuffnuff belt something that interested you? Obviously, it's getting yourself in the most eyes you can so that it gets you in front of the UFC. But I've been, like you said, I've been hearing you call for this Tuffnuff title fight for quite a while now. What made this the next target?
Getting my feet wet out here in new promotion, hopefully, fighting in Vegas or close to, so I don't have to travel and I can cut weight in my own bathtub. The Mongolian, he won the belt, so it's not just a made up belt. I'm not going out there and fighting for a vacated belt or they come up with a belt. It's like I'm going and challenging the title holder, and I want belt fights. Yeah, they're 5 rounds, and I'm getting paid ridiculously underpriced, but I want the belt, I want the eyes, and you're on Fight Pass. I'm in Vegas, and for me, it's not about the money. So, what is a couple extra $1,000? I feel like I'm getting a respectful opportunity that is fitting for where I'm at in my career, and that's kind of what it comes down to, is just feeling that I'm being respected. And now, I made that call out, and 5 months later, I got the fight. I was ready to go a long time ago, so there's just more time for me to get more hay in the barn. So now it's like you're in Vegas, you got your opportunity that you wanted. You called this out, and it's time to solidify that I am one of the best fighters on the regional scene, and I want to go make a spectacle out here and show a new side of the world, the new improved version of myself.
So talk to me about your opponent. It's Sogoku Armasana. That's my best
Sounds
guess
pretty
at
good.
how to say that. But we'll go with the Mongolian, like you called it. But talk to me about this fight. What was it about this guy was there anything in particular that you saw that you were like, I really think, my style matches up with this guy? Was it just because he had the belt for Tuffnuff, with Tuffnuff being another one of those like an LFA that we all know that the UFC watches, especially with them being centered in Vegas like that? What was it about? Is there anything with your opponent that sticks out to you on this one?
Not specifically. I just wanted his belt. I didn't care about his record. I just knew that he's had some good finishes and he's drawn some attention. And I feel like no matter what their style is, I feel like I can match up against whoever and beat them. So I just wanted to be an unknown challenger, kind of coming into enemy territory and his home of Tough Enough, and take his belt from him. And stylistically, I think I can beat him everywhere. He's got some flashy spins, and he's got technical sound striking. They think he's a better wrestler than he is. So, we'll see on Saturday. But I feel like all around I'm better, and yeah, he's in for a world of hurt.
Sounds like you're predicting yourself another finish, another reel to the highlight reel on this one.
Yeah, numbers don't lie, and if just look at what I've done. Technically, statistically, I go out and finish people. So I'm training for 25 minutes, and that's the hardest part. Is having to do 25 instead of 15 all the time. So it's kind of like a little fire underneath me of like, I had to go and do all this work where I'm not going to have to fight for a title for a long time until I'm, fighting in the UFC for the title. But again, it's just given me so much more knowledge and experience in the cage. And when it is time to fight for another title, like I've done the work before, and I'm only going to be better at doing it this time. My gas tank is higher than it's ever been. The way I can get through 5 rounds with 2 different opponents, really good opponents and teammates anyways. And the push that they give me, and being able to have a good mind going into like round 4, championship round, and feel good, feel like I could do a couple more rounds after I'm done with 5. It's exciting because it's unknown, and I want to challenge myself. Like, I can get through 15 minutes easy, but we'll see if he makes it to the second round.
I like it,
That's
man. You go ahead, Corey.
I was just gonna say that's the real test with all the. You always hear with all the prospects and stuff, making their debuts in the UFC. You'll hear John Anik or something say like, "We've never seen him go 5 when they make their first main event and stuff." But like you were just saying, even in a circumstance like this, if you do go out there and get the finish, that doesn't showcase all the work and stuff that you put in behind the scenes. But that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can look at the 45er that was just training with TJ Dillashaw, talking about puking in the bucket. He was doing
Josh Emmett.
Yeah, he put in a lot of work just to go out there and get finished in the first. It's like people don't understand how much, we want to make sure that the uncertain is as small as it can be. So you got to train like as hard as you can and put in the time. But yeah, people don't see that. So it sucks when you come up short, but it's also, like if you can finish them quick as well, hopefully it's not 14 seconds like the last fight. So you guys can see a little bit more because, I think that's kind of what killed me in the last one was it was too quick. So they didn't get to see as much as, you want to see a little bit more footage on this guy before you give him a big contract. So I feel like this is going to be a perfect amount of time and give me a little more cage time, without taking too much damage. Cage time is always a positive. So this will be everything and more.
It's funny you say that because, speaking of last week's guest, and you can check that out too, Cody Stamen and Mondo El Toro Gutierrez, who we had out here on the show, that was something Mondo spoke about too, in that, every time you sign a contract, you got to do all this training for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, all for 15 minutes, all for 25 minutes. You go in there and obviously you want to finish the guy, but if you finish a guy in the first, second round, a lot of times it can feel like you did all that work and all I got it for was 30 seconds, 2 minutes. I think that's what makes this fight a great showcase for you again because of the platform that's on, and again with it being centered in Vegas like that, the UFC eyes and things of that nature are going to be able to see it. And I mean, like you said, you already said that you're planning on a big finish. You go out there and you finish a guy who, like you said, is the legitimate champion, not a guy where it's a vacated belt or he's an interim champion or whatever the case. You go over there, you beat the champion, you get yourself a finish on top of the wins that you had already had with XFC. And like you said, the experience you already have considering both Contender Series and like a fight like Bellator. I mean, bro, you're pretty much checking all the boxes to where there's not going to be any more boxes left to be checked.
Mm-hmm. That's the big thing with snatching titles because your legitimacy is solidified. The more champs that you beat after this fight, I would expect a short notice fight against a tenured fighter in the UFC. And that's because of my record being big and the experience that I have. And, I'm just blessed to be in this position because not too long ago, I was just a kid, from Hastings, Michigan, who didn't know what he wanted to do or who he really was. And now I'm in the middle of the ocean. I feel like I just left the beach and you kind of look back and you're like, how'd I get here? So like, just perfect timing. It's God's timing. And that's why you just stay strong through it all and believe in him and then put the work in. He gave you 2 arms and 2 legs and sound mind and a good, healthy body. And I thank him every day for allowing me to wake up and breathe the air and not be, 6 months of training with no injuries and a year before that with no injuries. And then, you kind of go into some times where it was dark. And, that's where it's like, if you're not broken enough, you probably won't find Jesus. And I had to get broken down to my core and, get injured and figure out a way through it. And got blessed with an amazing wife. And, her and I are tough to beat. So.
Love to see it. Shout out to the lady boss, Casey Cross. I appreciate it out here. Man, let's talk a little bit about outside of the fight and stuff. Corey and I have, I should say J-Bone and I, as of now, have, some shenanigans set up for this weekend before we get to the fights that we're calling on Spectation Sports for Legends of Combat. You got to tell me, man, after you get this big dub, what's the plan for Halloween, bro? You guys got any big costume plans or anything like that? Or any are we smashing some candy after we get this dub, bro?
Yeah, man, I don't really celebrate Halloween, you know. It's not really for me, but Syndicate's doing a Halloween party, and they got a bunch of kids, and they're gonna do like a competition for the best costume and stuff. So they want me to be a judge. So I might have to suit up in something and go make these kids smile and have fun.
Bro,
so,
you're talking like I don't remember the days when you used to come into Podcast Detroit with the Hulk Hogan looking beard and had your beard dyed blonde, and then the rest of your man, get out of here, man. If anyone can pull off a costume, I feel like it's the boss. You know, I've had people all over my neck with us going to this Halloween party. What are you going to wear for this thing? I said, dude, everybody keeps saying I need to do the LA Knight thing. You know, I pulled out Orange Cassidy a couple years ago from AEW, and that ended up being a funny one because we got into the mosh pit. Somebody got backdropped. It was a good time. But you know, I'm looking forward to the Halloween festivities and all that good stuff as well. But dude, you know what else we got this weekend? You got UFC 321s going down. We finally got Tom Aspinall getting back into the cage, although I wish it was against John Jones and not against Cyril Gane. No disrespect to Cyril Gane, but I don't know about you, but I think that Aspinall is probably going to run through him. But you going to be checking out UFC 321 this weekend at all after you get your own dub?
yeah, I don't know, honestly, now that I think about it, because it will be the same time. But I mean, I watch every UFC fight, so I don't know. I'll probably catch all the highlights afterwards. I won't be on my phone and all that good stuff for Saturday. But
of course,
yeah, I got my family out here, so we'll go get a lot of food, and I'll probably see all the highlights after I watch my fight back a few times.
You got to pick. You got to pick on that one. You like Aspinall or Gane?
Aspinall all day. He's gonna run through him.
Speaking of the lady, and then she walks. Hell yeah, man. I think Aspinall's got too much for Cyril Gane, man. I feel like at this point, man, I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You know, I keep hearing people throw around the idea of possibly John Jones fighting Pereira next at that White House card. Now, don't get me wrong. We talked a little bit about what Merab did. Poatan came back and brought it back to Chama time real quick and just blew through Ankalaev. And I'm all for this dude, you know, conquering his own legacy and all that stuff. But I don't know about you, man. I want John Jones to fight Tom Aspinall, or it's just not the same to me. I don't know. You got any thoughts on that one?
It's a completely different stylistic matchup, so I can see why it would give John some ease fighting Poatan.
Oh, I see it for sure. I agree 100% because he knows that Poatan can't out-wrestle him, and he knows he's going to want to stand with him.
And he's fought plenty of big hitters before. I don't think that's too much of a concern for John. You know,
John's so cerebral, and why I'm so excited for this fight is my mindset of like I'm gonna go in there and break this guy down and decipher his attacks, and I don't really care about his style because I'm gonna go in there and see what his style is when I'm in there next to him, and what does he want to do to me, and break it down and avoid, evade, capitalize, and you know, find my opportunities, and that's what John's so good at. So, you know, when the guy doesn't have any wrestling, you know, it seems like Alex can defend some takedowns, and if he puts the pressure on like he did on his last fight, it's kind of hard to even engage in the wrestling when you're worried about getting hit. But I think John's long enough, and he's just the one of the best fighters ever. Again, I would also love if Alex could beat him. That'd be cool.
I just am interested to see what this White House fight's going to just look like, period. I just want to see what the overall thing, I just want to see what it's going to look like. Because, I mean, I heard...
They're going to be flying F1s or whatever over the top of them.
Oh, dude, it's going to be wild. It's going to be like Area 51.
I hope they pull out all the stops. I really do. I mean, that's
back.
Yeah. I felt like when they did the once in a lifetime card at the Sphere, it was like, it was pretty cool, but yeah, it was kind of, and maybe it was the fights didn't live up to what everybody was expecting to, but like you say, it was almost a dud. Like when a lot of hardcore fans think back on it, they're like, it wasn't quite what it was built up
All
to
the
be.
money and expectation they put behind it, it didn't live up
Yeah,
for sure. A regular card, Daniel
yeah,
Zuberman, and that's my boy over at Extreme. He had a great fight,
mhm.
but
That was
like
a damn
that's
good
the most
fight.
memorable fight.
That's what but with this White House thing, I'm really hoping that they pull out all the stops, because I feel like, yet again, to another example with the 300, I feel like it was a good card. It was a solid, like, stacked fights, but they didn't really pull out all the stops to like make it seem like above and beyond just the fact that it's, a numbered event. Essentially, it didn't seem, if you watched 298 or something, it had the same layout, same it wasn't, they didn't throw the real pizzazz at it. I hope, like you're saying, they get that spunk in them and really
Oh, they
pull out
got
the
to for
jets, pull
this
out
though,
the,
dude.
yeah, have to,
The,
have to,
They got to, like, for it being on the White House. I mean, this isn't
have
gonna.
to.
I can't see this becoming a thing where it's like a yearly thing, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's
right.
not like we're just gonna have a card at the White House every year. At least I wouldn't assume so.
This will
No,
probably
of
be the
course.
only
So
one.
yeah, you know what I mean. So like, if you're gonna get one, you just gotta. All I can picture in my head, and nobody really knows what it's gonna look like. But I just see this big extravagant. Like, it's got to have the lights. It's got to look like. It's got to look like the polar opposite to me from what you would see when you go into like a T-Mobile arena or wherever it is that you went to go see a fight. I just feel like you said, because this is like a one-time thing, like I just want this to look as extravagant as they can make it without it being too crazy. I mean, hell, this one-ups Karate Combat, we were talking about that with Sam Alvey, the heavyweight champ for them, and he was talking about how like fighting in those places where it looks like Area 51 is such a wild visual. Now imagine that in fighting on the front lawn of the White House.
You can have all the beautiful visuals and lights and get the biggest names, but you can't predict how they're going to fight on that night. So at the end of the day, like, you have a regular fight night and you get 8 finishes, and it's like, wow, that was an amazing card. And they don't put any kind of engine behind it. They just throw it together. Sometimes those are the best cards, for real fight fans. We want to see that we're here for the fights anyways. But
Absolutely.
you can get the biggest names, and sometimes it's just not the best styles fighting, or they have a bad night. And, sometimes you just throw a couple guys on the card, and it's like the whole card just has amazing fights. So you still never know. It's always a big risk. And then when you're throwing a lot of money around, it's like they want them to live up and fight so exceptional, and it's just not realistic.
Hey man, like I said, it just for the visuals alone, I think it's going to be, it all depends on, like you said, I think it comes down to what they actually are able to put pen to paper and get on that card whenever that card happens. Because we're still talking about this like it's not, they said it's already not going to be till like I think the middle of 26. So if it's not going to be till the middle of 26, let's see what's open and an actual possibility when you get to that. Yeah, the scope of it is cool. But I mean, like you said, who knows who's going to be ready to fight, what matchups they can realistically put together in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to imagine, like you said, with it being a one-time thing, everybody's going to want to fight on that card. So, like I
Right.
said, that's going to open up the possibilities of what you can see with it, dude. Before I let you get out of here, man, we talked a little bit about what Corey and I got going on this weekend. Do you got any thoughts on the fights for Cody Stamann and Mondo Gutierrez? Now, Mondo's got a new opponent this weekend as well.
Yeah, hopefully Mondo's opponents, hopefully this is the last one that he has to go through, and hopefully the guy can make weight and get to Michigan and everything. I pray that it's squared away, but if that guy makes it into the cage, Mondo's gonna decimate him. It's gonna be the Toro show, and then Cody's gonna come in and clean up whoever they put in front of him, and it's gonna be the Spartan show. And those guys they're gonna go handle their business. They've been training and they're ready for this. This isn't, you can look at it, it's a lower promotion, but these guys it's their next fight, which is their biggest fight, and they got something to prove. So I'm expecting my boys to go out there and handle business and put on for Michigan MMA. And I'm excited. We all get to fight on the same night, so we all can celebrate virtually together afterwards and, you know, congratulate. But I'm expecting these guys to raise their stock, and same for myself.
Michigang, dude, you love to see it. I'm definitely looking forward to it from the sounds of things. For any of you guys who didn't get to check this out, it says we got about 245 of you guys in here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, the like button, the share button, all the buttons, all those things. But, you know, when we talked with Mondo and Cody about that, you know, Mondo, it sounds like there's big things on the horizon. We know he just fought the PFL tournament. Sounds like there could be a round 2 of the PFL tournament coming up for him this year. You know, he comes out there and gets a big win. His new opponent is an undefeated guy out of the Dominican Republic versus the guy he originally had, who was a vet with over 40 fights. But like you were saying, getting to beat these high quality prospects, these undefeated guys, that, you know, bringing a guy in here from the Dominican Republic only is going to make him look better on a second run for the PFL tournament. And then for Cody, you know, there's the little added bit of the fact that his guy Chad Decker's already fought you know, Sean Tarleton, and there was all the beef that was there with that. So it makes for a good storyline. And you've got other past guests of the show, Brett Martin, making his return to the cage as well on Legends of Combat. So if you guys can't be in Vegas, which we understand, this is why you need to get UFC Fight Pass so you can see Kenny do his thing over there. Check it out on Tuffnuff, as well as past guests of the show, Justin James, the Guitar Hero, who is stepping back into the cage October 25th for Tuffnuff as well. I just hope he does like Stone Cold entrance again, because I'm just going to say that was pretty badass, especially with it being Halloween. We'll see what he has to pull out of this one. Kenny, we appreciate the time as always, my man. Let them know where they can find you on social media, watch the fight, and if there's any last words for anybody who can be wondering what they're expecting, what can we see this Saturday?
You guys can find me on Cross the Boss MMA on Instagram, and then Kenny Cross on Facebook. Shout out Brett Martin, big dog. He's back. I'm excited to see him go out and smash some people. Bless him and his family. He's been working hard. So it's really good to see him get back. You know, we kind of grew up together in the fight industry. So that's amazing to see. And, you know, I hope the best for him. You guys get the popcorn ready. Saturday, I'm coming to take this guy's belt, and not to do anything boring. I'm going to smash this guy, and it's going to be an exciting. You guys are going to see fully prepped, fully trained, and confident Kenny Cross out there here in Vegas. Bright lights, and, you know, when the lights get bright, I get big. So game on. Let's get it.
You heard the man. Bright lights, big cities, new titles. Kenny Cross is coming this Saturday. Make sure you check it out. Tuffnuff MMA. Make sure if you're in the Michigan area, you come on out and check out Legends of Combat this Saturday. Corey and I on the call. Make sure you check that out on Spectation Sports. Check out our show with Cody Stamen and Mondo El Toro Gutierrez. And make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, because we've got some heat coming to you, as always, from Knockouts and 3 Counts. Until next time, and in the in-between time, make sure you check that button. Peace. Appreciate you.